In a quiet village in Central America, there were usually not many police around. But one day, something unusual happened. Xena, a dog who used to work with the police, couldn't stop barking at a regular-looking tree. Her owner decided to check what was inside the tree, and that's when they discovered something strange. They called the police, and all the officers on duty rushed to the scene. The first officer who arrived couldn't believe what he saw. He wondered how things had come to this point, especially with something hidden in a tree. Deep down, he and everyone else in the police had a feeling that something was going to happen, but they never expected it to be like this. Within 30 minutes, there were at least 20 officers at the scene, ready to ask questions to the people who lived nearby. 2 forensic experts also came to investigate what was found in the tree. They wanted to find answers quickly. The discovery in the tree was disturbing, but what really worried everyone were the clothes, especially the uniform. But why had Xena, the ex-police dog, kept barking at the tree? What did the police find inside, and why was there such a big reaction? John could hear Xena barking in the distance. He lost her for a second when she unexpectedly ran off during their forest walk. It had caught him completely off guard, as she had not done anything like this since he adopted her. He started running through the forest in the direction of the barking. Suddenly, he started to get a bit afraid. Xena was an ex-police dog. What if she had found something she was trained to find? There was a good chance this was not going to be pretty. He eventually found Xena just outside the forest. John was holding his breath but quickly calmed down when he saw what Xena was doing. But this calm demeanor would quickly fade away when John started to discover more about what was truly happening here. Xena was standing deadly still, staring straight at a strange-looking tree, which was a bit removed from the forest. She just kept barking at it, and for a second John was just stunned. Could she have maybe been chasing an animal or something? But that would be so out of character for Xena. She was an ex-police dog. She of all dogs should be able to keep herself from getting so distracted or fixated on some random animals. There had to be something else going on. John had never seen her so full of energy and spirit. But what was it then? After inspecting the tree, John could not find anything wrong with it. All that stood out to him was that the tree seemed to be dead, as nothing was growing on it anymore. But this did not directly raise any concerns for him. But maybe it should have. Part of him wanted to just grab Xena's line again and drag her home, but he had to admit to himself that his curiosity had been piqued. The tree was old and had barely any leaves left, so he could see there was nothing up there Xena reacted to. Something had to be inside. As John examined the tree, he noticed that the bark seemed quite thin, and when he knocked on it, it produced a hollow sound. Could Xena and the dog be onto something? John knew he couldn't use his bare hands to get inside the tree, but he spotted a small house nearby. John tied Xena to a nearby tree and hurried to the house. He managed to borrow an axe from the owner without explaining why he needed it. When he returned to the tree, Xena was still there, barking persistently. This dog had a determined spirit. John began hacking at the tree, and after a few powerful swings, he felt like he was breaking through the bark layer. With a few well-placed hits, he was surprised to discover that his axe had struck something soft inside the tree. Uncertain and a bit nervous about what he had struck, John proceeded with caution. He placed the axe in the hole and began widening it. With one strong pull, a large piece of bark gave way, revealing what had been hidden inside the tree. Xena started barking even louder, and John dropped the axe in shock. He couldn't believe it. Had he been hacking into this? He knew he needed to call the police immediately. This was a matter of utmost importance. The officer who received the call was skeptical when John explained what he had found. A former police dog, a strange tree, and the discovery all sounded unbelievable. However, he decided to check it out just in case. Backup arrived, helping to clear the area. John, Xena's owner, was ready to go home after the bizarre experience. He had answered all the officers' questions and wanted to leave. However, Xena wasn't ready to go. She had stopped barking but remained fixated on the discovery. It made sense because Xena, being an ex-police dog, would typically have more work to do after making such a find. But Jerry knew she would only listen to her former partner, so he quickly got on the phone. Xena's former partner was actually a now also retired officer named Oliver, and luckily he was more than happy to come over and assist when he heard what was going on. Xena started sniffing around and then quickly made her way away from the tree with everybody in attendance watching in anticipation. Xena had found the scent. Xena's search had ended at a dirt spot where you could still see some tire marks left in the mud, something that other officers had already taken note of. The forensic expert eventually managed to come up with some conclusions, one very comforting and one very worrying. The first was that they were not dealing with a dead body, but a somewhat lifelike doll. It seemed to have been handmade. And then there was something else. The police uniform the doll was wearing was an actual uniform of the local police, and the forensic experts even managed to determine who it had belonged to as they had found the name of the badge. And the name had already been recognized by a lot of officers as it was the name and badge of Corporal Mike. Corporal Mike had a stellar 15-year career with the police force, earning the trust and friendship of many colleagues. However, a few months ago, everything changed abruptly. One day, Mike unexpectedly left the force, and to make matters even more mysterious, all public records of him were erased. The truth was that Mike had been caught in the act while photographing confidential police documents. As a result, he was not only fired but was also facing potential legal action. However, the very next day, Mike vanished without a trace. Because the police wanted to keep this information under wraps, they conducted discreet search efforts, which unfortunately yielded no results. After a month of trying to locate him, they had to give up and shift their focus to other cases. They were still in the dark about what exactly Mike had learned from those confidential documents. The first officer on the scene, Jerry, felt like he had let Mike down and was determined to find out what had happened to him. He wanted to lead the investigation but was surprised when his chief refused, citing a conflict of interest and wanting another city's department to handle it. Jerry was determined to uncover the truth about Mike, whether his chief knew about his investigation or not. In the next few days, Jerry gathered relevant information. They found mostly Mike's DNA and fingerprints on the lifelike doll and his police clothes, but there was someone else's DNA as well who wasn't in the system. Most people in the area didn't have useful information except for John and another man. The man owned the house where John had gone to get an axe to open the tree. He was the only one who had a view of the tree from his house and noticed a car being passed early one morning from the direction of the tree. It was strange because that road seemed like a dead end, and he wondered why the car was there at that time of day. The man had not been able to see the number plate, but he did recognize what kind of car it was and the color. A red Dodge SUV Hellcat. Not an easy car to forget. Not for the man, not for Jerry, as he remembered this car very well himself. This was the exact car Mike had always come to work with. For a while, the police felt like they had hit a wall in the investigation. Jerry put out a search warrant for Mike's car in the hopes that this could get them somewhere, but they did not have high hopes. But they were going to be very surprised. Just a week after the search warrant was put out, Jerry got a call from a befriended officer one town over. He had worked at the station at the same time as Mike and recognized by the stickers on the car that it was actually Mike's. He had spotted it going into a garage. He arrived at the house a couple hours later and was surprised by what he saw. This did not look like the house of an officer that had been fired and out of a job for a while. It was huge, and it looked expensive as hell. Jerry collected his nerves and rang the doorbell. After a few moments, the door was swung open and Jerry recognized the man immediately. It was Mike. He looked great and Jerry was surprised by his enthusiasm. They didn't know each other well during their time at the force. Mike exclaimed, "Finally, somebody found me. What took you so long?" Jerry, puzzled, followed Mike into the house where Mike explained his plan. The whole police dog incident in the tree was a stunt he had pulled to get the attention of someone in the force. He wanted to find someone who cared about his well-being and could uncover the real reason for his firing. Knowing the chiefs wouldn't look for him, Mike's hope was to be found by a courageous officer, and Jerry turned out to be that person. He wanted someone to find him so that he could share the true reason behind his dismissal from the force. While sorting documents, Mike stumbled upon incriminating evidence against a wealthy local person. He tried to take pictures of it but got caught by the chief and was fired instantly. The chief was determined to keep those documents a secret. On the same day, Mike discovered that the chief was being bribed by the millionaire. Mike was offered hush money as well, and he accepted it. He planned to keep the millionaire's secret, but wanted to expose the corrupt police chief. Jerry, who strongly disliked the chief, didn't need much convincing to help get him fired. He shared the corruption information with other senior officers, and they had enough evidence to oust the chief. Mike achieved his goal, but Jerry couldn't have predicted what would happen next. With the chief gone, the police needed a new leader, and the other officers thought Jerry was the right person for the job. So the unexpected turn of events that started with Sina, the ex-police dog, led to the corrupt chief's dismissal and honest cop Jerry taking his place. Sometimes, the world works in strange ways.